The presenting sponsor of Moon Tower Soccer is FVF Law.
To find out what makes FVF a different kind of injury law firm, you can visit fvf.law.
Hello friends, thanks for listening to Moon Tower Soccer. This week we'll review a tough 1-0 loss to Dallas. We'll also be joined by Marcelo Balboa to preview the Seattle and New England matches this week, and then we'll cover a few pieces of Austin FC news. My name is Landon Cottam, and I'm joined as always by Mr. Jeremiah Bentley.
Hey everybody, I'm Jeremiah Bentley, and let's start by talking about Moon Tower Soccer, which I don't think we do a ton of. So we've been doing the show for a while, like 3 or 4 years at least, maybe.
Oh, well over 3 years at this point.
Well, it's over 3 years, all back the days where we did the show once a month, and we used to read notes from homeowners association meetings because that was like the only Austin FC news there was. And this has been great, and we've enjoyed this ride for a little while. God, this sounds dark now. Anyhow, well, let's just cut to the punchline. We are interested in adding to the team at Moon Tower Soccer.
Yes, so we're looking to add a couple of roles. If one person can fill both of them, that would be great. But if one person can fill one of them, that's great too. The first one is going to be helping run our social media stuff. Jeremiah and I are not great at it, and
definitely not great at managing 2 accounts, right? Like I can tweet well enough on my own, you too, but then also giving the Moon Tower account the attention it deserves, I think is something that we can admit that we have not been great about, especially recently.
Yeah, so that is kind of the primary thing we're looking to add. But in the ideal scenario, this person would also be able to kind of step in and co-host the show whenever somebody's on vacation. So Jeremiah doesn't have to do so many shows from hotel rooms, or if I go out of town or whatever, I don't have to end up editing on the road or doing stuff like that. So that's kind of what we're looking for. We will be posting the job description and kind of like a little application link. If you think you would be a good fit for one or both of these roles, then throw your name in the hat. Don't be afraid. We'll if you have any questions, reach out and talk to us. But yeah, don't be afraid to throw your name in the ring. If it's not a great fit, that's fine, but maybe it will be.
And I guess the one thing that's probably a question is said, is it there will be a reward beyond, did you see Caddyshack?
Yes.
Where he says, your reward will be total consciousness. We will have a reward beyond total consciousness on your deathbed. So there'll be a little cash on this too. Now that we sort of are sustainable with Patreon and advertisers, we can share a little bit of it. So there's also a little bit of a financial incentive for somebody to come in and help us out and join the team and help us grow what we're doing at Moon Tower Soccer.
So you've got that going for you.
Exactly, which is nice.
All of our listeners under the age of 35 are very confused right now.
It's a great movie about golf that your parents loved. Just go check it out.
All right, let's move on. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, and there's even better behind the scenes documentary about all the chaos that went into that show. And I'll send you the link and maybe we'll post it somewhere online. But it's the whole shot was a mess too. It was everything you expected it to be.
I didn't know about that. I want to watch that now. I randomly grew up on Caddyshack when I was probably too young to be watching it, but it was the TBS cut, and so most of the nudity and cursing was edited out. But okay, let's move on to Austin FC news.
Okay, let's do it.
All right, so Austin FC 2 had a chance to clinch a playoff spot against Sporting Kansas City 2 and did not do it. I went out to this game. This was the first, I guess I got to watch one last week, but several games in a row that I didn't get to watch at all. Again, Austin controlled most of this game, looked like the much better team, but just wasn't able to generate shots. Kansas City kind of played bunker and counterattack style, which seems to be a trend.
The way to play.
What teams? What'd you say?
I said the way to play against Austin FC.
Yeah, it's a trend, but also probably a good idea for how to play against this team, because they've struggled to create chances. And I think I mentioned this a few weeks back. They've also been playing some younger players. And I think that has that's part of the reason why Austin is struggling some, is that as good as some of these young players are, they just are still quite young and inexperienced. But I think a few notes from this game is David Rodriguez was back on the bench. He's missed, I don't know how many games. It's been quite a few though. Like I want to a couple of months at least at this point. He was back on the bench, got to play some minutes at the end of the game. Kip Keller started this game at center back, and he's been pretty much full time with the first team for the last couple of months. So that was a little bit of foreshadowing that he would not be on the bench against FC Dallas.
Yeah, and I watched that on TV at the house, and I've lost him because I forgot that he got his haircut. And for a little bit there, I couldn't figure out who the other center back was beyond Saul Mazzaferro, who got the first goal. I don't think he looked great. I mean, another Micah Burton got another start, which I thought was interesting. Again, he didn't look. Nobody looked amazing in attack, really, right? But it was good to see him play again, and it's good to see some of this youth movement come to pass. Pino, I think he did not start up top last time, right? Was this? He was back in this time.
I think he's started the last 2 games, but had also been subbed out for both of those games. But Sporting Kansas City just did a good job of kind of neutralizing everybody and just playing really compact defensively. And so it didn't feel like to me that many people had a particularly bad game, just that they weren't good enough to beat what Kansas City was doing, if that makes sense. Which is concerning, right? Like they were in an opportunity to clinch that playoff spot, and it's now 2 games in a row where they were in that opportunity and haven't grabbed it. And now it's starting to, like, teams behind them are creeping up, and if they don't do it soon, they're gonna push themselves into kind of an undue tense situation.
Yeah, that's a good point, because for a while they were second behind Colorado, and they were fairly close to Colorado, but some gap between them and the rest of the field. So now I think Tacoma is tied on points, but behind on goal differential. Sporting KC2 is only 2 points back of Austin. So yeah, the field gets a little bit tighter as they continue to not lock things down and not clinch that spot. I guess the bright side on that is that LAFC is in last in the Western Conference and comes to Austin to Palmer Field again on Friday. So again, another opportunity to clinch, and seems like one thing they might be able to take advantage of. But they haven't closed the door when they've had the chance before. I thought like both the SKC goals to me seemed a little bit against the run of play too. Like it kind of came out of nowhere. Like especially like the one off the corner from that header was like I think it was the second goal, was like at such an extreme angle. Like couldn't even figure out what went on or how it went in until like the second time I watched that goal too.
Yeah, and they're pretty close to each other time wise as well. And it felt like there's this little stretch where SKC kind of had a little surge and then like capitalized on a few little moments, and then all of a sudden Austin FC's down 2-1, which it was a bizarre game.
Yeah, but again, back this Friday, chance to do more. And do you have any other notes you want to cover on this one, or you want to go ahead and move on to a little bit more news?
I don't think so. We can move on.
Okay, so we've got the announcement that the U.S. men's national team will play the CONCACAF Nations League quarterfinal on November 16th. It's 7:30 against TBD, but it will be at Q2 Stadium. So we will. We don't even know who
I think the
opponent is at this point. Like it's going to be. There's a lot of chances of who it might be.
Any number of teams at this point. I read through that article many times trying to figure out if they said who we were playing or like what. It didn't say. It was just like we'll find out later. And so. Yeah, we do not know yet.
What's it, a 2-legged tie against a to-be-determined opponent, including the home leg at Q2, with the winner qualifying directly for the 2024 Copa America. So this is going to be the 4th time that the U.S. national team has played in Austin. So it's just another good example of Austin being a soccer city and a place that the national team wants to play, that gets support. So tickets, again, this is not included in your package, but you will have a chance as a season ticket holder, if you are, to get it on the pre-sale. So those go on sale on August 30th for season ticket and waitlist members, and the general public on September 5th.
All right, and then the last bit of news, Austin FC was nominated as most uniquely Austin by the Austin Chamber of Commerce. What does that mean?
Okay, yes, this is like my moment of personal privilege as a Greater Austin Chamber of Commerce board member. So there's this thing called the Greater Austin Business Awards every year that happens in October. And there's all these different choices for like startup of the year and CEO of the year and person, company who cares the most about the environment of the year and whatever. There are all these things. And so this year there's one that's specifically called Most Uniquely Austin, which is the only one that's open to the public. And Austin FC was one of the finalists for that position, along with the Moody Center, Pinball's Arcade, where I just hosted a 12th birthday party, and Thundercloud Subs. So those are your choices. So go vote for Austin FC. Give it a chance to pick up a crystal trophy on stage. And hopefully you can see them recognized by the city for the great contributions that Austin has made.
Do y'all ever get any pedants getting mad at you for using unique as a modifier like that?
No, we haven't. I don't think so.
That is a word that I am a bit of a pedant myself, but I think that.
Oh, you mean most unique?
Yeah, like saying like more unique or the most unique is technically not correct, because something being unique there's only
means
one.
It stands. Yes,
and
absolutely.
So you can't be more or less unique than anything else, because there should technically only be one. In this case, I like the modifier of unique because I think it's actually useful in language. And what is language for if not being useful?
I did not expect this conversation on this topic to go that way, but I appreciate it.
Okay, let's take a quick break. We'll be right back to break down the FC Dallas game. Hang tight. We'll be right back with more Moon Tower Soccer. When no one is around. Moon Tower Soccer is brought to you by our friends at FEF Law, the official injury lawyers of Austin FC.
FEF is a different kind of personal injury law firm dedicated to community, transparency, and client education.
You can go to FEF.law to find out what makes FEF a different kind of injury law firm and why understanding your legal options can dramatically change the outcome of a case. Once again, that's FEF.law. Amplify Credit Union is a member-owned financial cooperative that served the needs of Central Texans for over 5 decades. Amplify's team lives and works in the community, making them the experts on how members can achieve their financial goals.
What makes Amplify different? No bank fees. Amplify is the first financial institution in Texas to put an end to bank fees. In 2022, Americans paid almost $8 billion in overdraft fees alone. Millennials paid an average of $336 a year in bank fees, which works out to 6 Austin FC game tickets per person per year. You'll pay none of these bank fees with Amplify Credit Union. Now, here's the part where everybody needs to pay attention, because we have a new ad copy, which we don't get very often.
And you know what else that 336 equals is parking at 14 Austin FC games.
Nice. And why would parking at Austin FC games be relevant in this very moment?
It's because Amplify wants to give you parking.
Yes. Yes. Amplify is going to offer free parking at their Esperanza branch, which is minutes away from the stadium, for any Moon Tower listener. You can visit www.goamplify.com/moontower. Give them your email address, and they will provide you with free parking at their branch, which is a short walk from the stadium. You do have to RSVP so that you do not get towed by the able Amplify facilities team.
This is a great deal and a great service that Amplify Credit Union is providing to our listeners. So take advantage of that, and also check out Amplify Credit Union. All right, we are back. We're going to talk about Austin FC's heartbreaking loss in Dallas on Saturday. Ended up losing 1-0 in the last handful of seconds of the game. Dropped to 9th place in the West, and now the Copa Tejas final results are out of our hands at the moment.
Yes, there's still an opportunity that Austin may win it, but I believe it relies on a Dallas draw against Houston on September 30th in Houston. Otherwise, the winner of that match brings Copa Tejas home. So I don't know where. I saw that Copa Tejas took a nice bus ride up on one of the fan buses to the match, and I do not know where it resides right now. I guess in San Antonio, maybe back with the owners of it, but it seems unlikely it's going to come back home to Austin again for the second year.
And even if it does, won't that be the saddest, most lackluster way for it to do so?
Oh, you mean a draw?
If they draw
between two other teams where like I don't imagine there's a bunch of Austin fans who are going to go down and celebrate in the parking lot, with a trophy down there. I don't even know
Yeah.
how the presentation works, but yeah, it's a lot of opportunity lost. And to the your point about the timing, like an opportunity that seemed like it was there, and almost seemed like the opportunity for a victory after Austin played down a man for a long time right before that. And so it's just like it was a real gut punch of a loss. I was at an event and watching it on my phone, and it was really, really hard. And it was all like even worse, like going back the next day and watching it like on a big TV.
Yeah. All right, let's go through the lineup here. So we ended up with Brad Stuver in goal, the back line, Gallagher at left back, Hedges and Cascante center backs, Nick Lima right back, and then midfield is Danny Pereira, Alex Ring, Owen Wolff, and then the front three was Brigoni on the left, Finley on the right, and then Driussi playing as the 9.
Yes. What do you think about it? It's like this is I went to 3 different websites and got 3 different like formations out of it. But do you agree that this is like generally is this what you would call the Austin formation, a 4-3-3?
Yeah. So again, like listeners, whenever you see these lineup graphics on like FotMob or on the MLS app or whatever, people are just guessing. They do not know what formation they're playing. I think there's like a rare case where somebody gets an inside tip and they actually kind of know, or if it's a situation where the team actually plays like a very cut and dry formation that's easy to tell what it is. Austin doesn't do that. And so that ends up with the graphics on TV being wrong like 90% of the time. But this looked to me like pretty much exactly the same formation we always run, which is defending in a 4-4-2, attacking in a 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1 kind of look. The midfield is a bit fluid, and especially with Driussi playing in a slightly different position. But as far as like the roles here, Driussi was playing as a 9, but a false 9. He was drifting around quite a bit. He wasn't like stretching the back line and playing like Jussi Zardes does. He was still kind of playing as a 10 and kind of floating around and doing what he wanted, even from that position. Then you had Owen Wolff pushed up slightly higher, kind of playing in that Sebastian Driussi role, but on the right-hand side. And then Danny Pereira was still playing in his normal role. And then Alex Ring was kind of playing the Owen Wolff role, where he was getting forward as he saw fit, but also was the one to drop back and help in the build-up and would get a little deeper when he needed to. And then in the defensive shape, Alex Ring was the one next to Danny Pereira in that midfield.
So it's the let's just talk about, you want to talk about I guess the start of the game. So like what did you see out of I guess one important thing to talk about Dallas, Jesus Ferreira was not playing, and that guy has terrorized Austin FC over and over again. I think we have learned repeatedly to not get excited about star players being out, because Austin has like shown that doesn't seem to matter either way, like good or bad. But it gave a Dallas team that has had a lot of issues scoring in league play, even though they picked up a little bit in the Nations League. It took away almost all their firepower, and I think that's probably a little bit what you saw out of the way that Dallas played and presented themselves almost completely throughout the match, even though they dominated possession. Like nobody created a lot of chances either way.
Yeah, and I think I didn't get a chance to look at this, but I would be curious to see what possession looked like before the 60th minute. I would be willing to bet that maybe it even tilted Austin's way. But coming out, like after how bad the St. Louis game looked on pretty much every front, the way that Austin FC started in this game, I was pretty encouraged by. I thought they came out with good energy, they looked confident both in their pressing, the way they were moving the ball, the way they were winning tackles. There's some games, and I think the St. Louis game was one of them, where they come out and they just look nervous and like scared at moments. And that was not the case in this game. They looked very confident, very sure of themselves, very aggressive in moments. And so they also kind of changed their defensive posture a little bit, where they were playing slightly more conservative. And by that, I mean they were less worried about pressing up super high on center backs and on the goalkeeper. They were still doing that on certain triggers, but they were staying that front line of 2 or 4 was staying a little deeper and more worried about keeping Facundo Quignon, that their 6, from receiving the ball in the midfield there. And so they were forcing balls a little bit deeper or over the top, where for long stretches of the game, they would be forced to play a long ball. Hedges or Cascante would head it down and Austin would go the other way. Or there'd be a bad pass in the back, Austin would grab it and go the other way. And then they, of course, Paul Arriola is one of their like star players, the guy they lean on a lot. And they would get the ball to him out on the left wing, and Nick Lima would just bully the man like for a bit, most of the first half. He's just on his back, pushing him, just like bulldogging the guy the whole game, and like was really getting under his skin. And I really liked that, where the front line was a little less aggressive, but the back line and the midfielders were a little more aggressive. And I like that look. I think it lends itself more to Austin FC's skill set and requires a less like senseless running at times whenever the press doesn't work.
So do you think we talked last week about the Austin's tendency to press a lot high early and then like wear out, especially because of the heat? Like, so would you rather see Austin play this way, like generally going forward? No, for the rest of the year, like knowing it's going to continue to be hot. Austin's going to be continued to be, it seems like not completely healthy all the time. Given sort of where Austin is now and the continued ongoing like schedule congestion, which we'll talk about with Marcelo in a little bit. Like, do you think this is a more like sustainable way for Austin to play?
I mean, we've seen him do it at times here and there, but Wolff has never stuck with it. And I understand, like, in the style that he wants to play, like there is a reason for pressing high, but I just think with this group of players, like we've never been able to do it well for a whole game. It's always been a little burst, and then we start getting beat, and then we're just chasing the whole time. And I think this setup for the Dallas game, we've seen it in a few other games, it really does just I just think it suits the players better. And so I'm sure there's like some sacrifices being made offensively for doing that I'm not aware of or not seeing, but just sheerly looking at what we look like defensively, I like this a lot better.
And so you asked the first half on ball possession sort of before the red card, which I think we'll get into, but first half was about 50-50. Austin outshot Dallas 6-3. Austin had a slightly higher X goal. Not that it really matters much, but I think, this game really turns. Well, it seemed like it would turn on the red card for Danny Pereira, although Austin held on for a long time. So you want to talk about the card?
Yeah, well, there's a few other moments that I wanted to touch on before then. So one of them being the Ethan Finley bicycle kick attempt.
oh yeah.
So
that was.
There's a free kick from like 40 yards out. We have everybody in the box. It kind of gets pinballed around in the box for a while. And then I see someone like turn with like perfect form and hit a bike and like got pretty good contact on it. I was like, who was that? Who just did that? And then stood up, and it's Ethan Finley. And it was like, did not see that coming. He's just full of surprises lately, that man. But he got good contact on it. It was not really anywhere close to target, but still fun to see. Owen Wolff gets a good shot on frame a little bit after that, but pretty much straight at the keeper. A really big save from Brad Stuver in the 60th minute for is it Ansa, whoever they put in at left wing. He got a shot that Stuver had a really big save there. And then we see our first set of substitutions around.
So 62, Will Bruin and Memo come on.
Yeah, and that is
before the second card.
That is for Alex Ring and Emiliano Rigoni. And
okay, so that brings up the question of like, why is Alex Ring the guy coming off the field when Danny Pereira is on a yellow card?
This is a thing. I'm glad you brought this up. So I saw some people talking about this online. My thinking was, if you're going to take out one of the midfielders, Alex Ring has been pretty good in this game. Why not pull Owen and leave Alex on? And so I was interested to hear that some people were thinking that we should pull Danny in that. So you're saying pull Danny just because he's on a yellow card?
Yes, pull Danny because he's on a yellow card and he's got the threat of getting the red that leaves Austin in a position to lose. Although I believe that was Danny's fifth yellow, so he's going to be out the next game for accumulation anyhow. So obviously it's a gamble. So we could talk about the whole midfield because like Owen wasn't super good either. So like I mean like give me your thinking on what you would do with that substitution.
Here's my question about the Danny thing. Should we pull Danny out of every game he gets a yellow card?
Oh, there would be a lot of games. I guess we could talk about Danny's tendency to draw yellow cards.
That feels like multiple a little bit
cards.
Monday morning quarterback to me to say like he got a red, so we should have pulled him out when he gets yellow cards a lot. Like I think the ideal solution is Danny
not getting yellow cards,
learns from his mistakes, and so let's jump to this red card here. So the first one comes in like the 45th minute or so. Danny loses the ball in the midfield. Velasco picks it up and is driving at the back line. Danny's hustling back to try to just like slow him down and fouls him from behind. This seems like a professional foul. I'm not mad about the decision making there because a guy that good in that kind of position, yeah, get what you can on him. Hopefully you can get the ball, but if not, you stop the attack. But whenever you put yourself in that situation, you then have to change the way you play for the rest of the game. And Danny Pereira, on multiple occasions at this point, has shown that he will not change the way he plays the game. He will not make better decisions. And so in the 67th minute, Danny intercepts the ball in the aftermath of an FC Dallas corner. He's driving ahead, but because we were defending a corner, everyone's behind him, so he can't find an option. Velasco kind of sneaks up on him and pokes the ball away from him back towards the FC Dallas goal. And Martinez, their center back, is kind of coming onto it. And Danny sees that. And so Danny like baseball slides into him with his foot first when like really he doesn't need to. Like Martinez is running away from his own goal. He's not in a dangerous moment. So he should just run past Martinez, like maybe like leave a leg out to try to touch the ball. But if he doesn't, get in position and turn around and defend. And instead he like acts like this is the game-winning tackle he's trying to make here in a not dangerous area and goes in. And I don't think there's even much contact, but just the way he goes in and the fact that Martinez had to jump over him, like you have to give the yellow there. So this is 100% on Danny Pereira.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It was a really frustrating foul because of the situation and the mentality and sort of the lack. It's just unnecessary for sure. Which would change the game all the way around. So
yeah, so we talked about there was a couple of subs before then. I think saying that you should pull off Danny Pereira there, like imagine if they do pull Danny Pereira with one yellow card and then FC Dallas scores a fluke goal and then we can't get the ball back up the field because Danny Pereira is not on the field. What would you or other fans be saying in that moment?
Oh, well, clearly, Josh Wolff made a mistake. Like I will own this. Especially maybe this is just from like not watching all of the game live, like just seeing like just following the ticker. I'm like, that seems really stupid that we wouldn't have like made this other kind of move. So
maybe it's a good punishment for Danny to start pulling him out of games every time he gets a yellow. But as far as like soccer strategy goes, I'm not convinced by it.
So let's go back to the substitution at all. Like, do you pull Alex Ring?
It depends. It depends on why. So talking about if it's for how he's playing in this game and just like a strategic move, no, I leave Alex Ring on. But Alex, who else came off with him? It was Emiliano Rigoni, right? These are the two guys who were on kind of the same injury timeline.
Right.
I think it's very possible that this is like minute management with 3 games this week. These are guys you want in the game. You pull him early and get him off there. And so he can start in the next one. If that's not why, then if it's like a strategy thing, a performance thing, I very much disagree with it. But if it's a minute management thing, totally fine with it.
Which I don't believe that we got insights on it. That I'm pretty sure we didn't hear anything about it in the post game. I'd be interested to see if that comes up in the midweek. But yeah, that's a really good point. That seems the only way that it makes a ton of sense for both of those. So then it's 77. We get Valencia on for Wolff. And who else comes on there?
Lundqvist comes on
For
for
Finley?
Ethan Finley.
Yeah.
So the immediate aftermath of the card, we went to like a 4-4-1 and just Driussi dropped into the midfield and we're defending there. And then after this second set of subs, we went to like Nick Lima dropped into the line of 3 center backs. Then we had Gallagher at right wing back and Lundqvist at left wing back, and then a line of 3 in the midfield, and then Will Bruin up top on his own. And this was working quite well. Like we had 25-30 minutes to sit it out, and I was very nervous, but Austin FC held their own and we're like doing a good job of staying sturdy, not giving up too many chances for Dallas, and breaking and trying to make something happen whenever they could, but sticking to, like, at that point, like the primary focus becomes don't give up a goal. Let's get out of here with 1 point. And they were doing that until
so close to doing that
until like the last few seconds of the game, really. And so another thing I noticed, so they pulled Driussi off late in the game. He had sat down and was acting like he was a little bit injured. Wolff was asked about this in post game and said that that he's fine. Like it was fatigue and nothing else. He should be good to go midweek. So that's very good news. I was a little bit confused as to why it was Zardes coming on, because Zardes ended up playing essentially as a midfielder and defending as a midfielder, which after seeing him come on, I thought he did a good job defending there. And like, he's a smart player. Like for his physical shortcomings at time, he is a very smart player and was good in kind of defending in that position. Until I'll have more to say on this in a little bit, but
okay.
And the very last moments, there's I think it's off of a goal kick. There's kind of a balling ball in the midfield there. Falls to Memo Rodriguez. He's in alone behind the last set of defenders. One of their fresh defensive subs catches him, so he can't get a shot off. He turns out of pressure, finds Gallagher running down the backside. Gallagher gets a shot off across the face of the keeper. It deflects off of Tafare's thigh, hits his thigh, hits the ground, bounces over the goalkeeper, and it looks like it's going to go in and just hits right off the crossbar and back. And Dallas is able to recover it and get it out of the 18.
That was like such a moment of almost sheer joy, right? It just, and quickly transitioned to utter disappointment.
Yeah. So that, like, yeah, go from the moment like this would have been the winner, like this was it, to
and it would have been
an
incredible story of like overcoming adversity, right? Like
yeah.
this would not, it's not just like the winner almost at the death, but it's like the winner on the road down a man to win the Copa Tejas. Like the narrative around that would have been amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah. So there's, I think, less than 2 minutes left on the clock. They added 7 minutes of extra time. Adam Lundqvist gets the ball deep in the Dallas half and just turns and gets over to the corner and is trying to get a foul or win a corner there. It ends up getting poked out for a goal kick. I don't know if it was the right call or not. I couldn't quite see it, but it ends up with a goal kick. They play it up, win a throw it in. They have a bunch of numbers in the box. Farfan, who's their left back, was over there, puts in a long cross into the box, places it exactly on Tafare's head at the apex of his jump. A blind header goes towards the back post. Stuver gets a hand on it, but it's always going to be a really tough save there. And they get a goal at the very last seconds of the game.
I mean, at the very last seconds of the game, and just steal all the joy from all the Austin fans and just make for a really sad bus trip back home for a bunch of people that were up there, and ultimately leave what is that now? I'll leave Austin ninth. Well, we didn't even know if Austin was going to stay ninth in the table, but after the match the next day, like, leaves Austin in ninth, struggling a little bit, as we have seen.
I wanted to look at this goal a little bit more. So watching it back, I've seen some criticism of the defending in the box, which that stuff can always be slightly better. given the situation and how it happened, I didn't think it was specifically bad. Hedges was kind of tracking Tafare, the like where the ball was and like how it got there. Like it's kind of understandable that he doesn't get there in the right spot. Cascante is behind him. Maybe he could have put a little bit more pressure, gotten a bit more of a bump on him. Like that stuff is always true. But the one thing I saw that was very much within our control and very much could have done better. I was praising Justy Zardes for his defending. Justy Zardes does not put pressure on Farfan. And it's like the clock is ticking down. I know there's not a clock in the stadium that tells you like this is the number of minutes left, but he has to know like this is it.
It's got to be. Yeah, he has to know.
And so like he's gonna put a ball in, take a few steps, and like Zardes hadn't been on the whole game. I know he's like probably still tired because they've been defending constantly for however long, but use whatever is left in your tank, put a little more pressure on that ball, and maybe it doesn't land right on the penalty spot right there. But I think that's my biggest complaint with how that last little bit went on, is not getting enough pressure there.
Well, and then I guess, did you see this? Like Brad Stuver seemed really broke up after the game about like allowing this goal. Like they like I could see this photo of him like basically like looked like he was crying afterwards. And then when he posted his like I'm going to overanalyze social media, which I realize is Swoon Tower soccer content. But when he he put his post on Instagram about the match, and like the black and green hearts like turned comments off because I guess he didn't want to hear what people had to say about it. Like, for a guy that's taken some criticism for some performances recently, including for me last week, like this game was like not a game that was on Brad Stuver. Like, and I feel bad for the guy knowing that that's what he took out of it, was just this like, raw emotion, feeling like he somehow let the team down.
Yeah, I mean, I think this, like, he had a couple of big saves that saved goals in this game, and this one, like, yeah, I don't know. I would defer to someone who knows more about goalkeeping, but I don't think he should have been expected to save this one. Like it was a tough.
It didn't
one
look like
there.
it. Yeah, I agree. So I was just surprised that was like. I mean, I guess I'm not surprised that was his reaction, because he seems to take like everything on himself. But like, I was disheartened that like he feels like that any of this was on him. And I guess my other post game press conference was, you see the Matt Hedges jersey swap and all the online that created. I don't want to leave that by. We can go back and talk about some individual player moments and things we saw that maybe we didn't cover during talking about the match. But like, I want to talk about Matt Hedges walking off the field with an FC Dallas jersey and how much that offends you.
So I understand why it offends some people and why some people are upset about. I personally don't care. I will judge Matt Hedges by the effort he exerts in his performance while he's wearing a green jersey on the field during the 90 minutes. As long as he's fighting during that time, I don't care what jersey he wears afterwards. But I do get that it's bad optics, and I understand why some fans are upset about it.
Yeah, and I think those optics were amplified by the way the game turned out. Like, I think it was because the fact that it was like at the death, when it seemed like Austin might pull something out, like we just talked about. Like, I think there's a lot of raw emotion immediately after the match that probably came out and got cast upon Matt Hedges for wearing an FC Dallas jersey off the field, when it's like, I mean, the guy is a club legend, played there for 12 years. But to your point, I think he had a pretty strong game. One of the better games, maybe the best game he's played in Austin so far. Like, he seems to finally be acclimating to the system a little bit. So I don't think this game is the game to criticize Matt Hedges for.
Yeah, I thought he was strong. He fought super hard. I actually said out loud, like, Matt Hedges is having a good game, and then he had like 2 bad passes in a row. But overall, I thought he was really strong and like showed that, like, oh yeah, he is a positive addition to this team, like in a very clear way. And I really thought he showed that in this one.
Is there anybody else you wanted to talk about player wise?
Maybe let's talk about like lineup going into Seattle. We talk a little bit about this with Marcelo Balboa in the interview, but with Danny Pereira out, with 3 games this week, there's probably going to need to be some rotating. I think there's quite a few question marks. Like, I think both of the fullbacks went 90 minutes in this game. So Wouldn't be surprised maybe to see Lundqvist step in either this game or on the weekend. We don't know what the midfield is going to look like. Like, what would your midfield look like in this game?
So I would play in like the 6 and 8. I would play Valencia more deeper and Alex Ring in the 8 role.
And then Driussi.
And then Driussi
If
is
we're
the 10,
expecting
yeah.
a real striker to be back.
Yeah, well, yes, for sure. I mean, I think we can expect to Giassi, and I was going to say New England plays on turf, so I would think for Wednesday, I would expect to see Driussi in his traditional role, and then maybe we don't see him on the weekend, given like his how he and artificial turf seem to get together. So I think for the Seattle match, that's what I expect to see in the midfield.
Yeah, the only reason I question that is that Zardes, the fact that like Bruin has been coming in before Zardes in these last couple of games, it makes me think that Zardes is still being managed as far as his minutes go because of coming back from his injury, but in Leagues Cup. So that's just one thing I'm curious about. Like, how many minutes? Like, can he go 60? Sure, let's start him. If they're thinking like 45 tops, like that makes me a little more nervous. Maybe you still do it and then play Bruin for a half, or I don't know. That's the only part that's a big question mark. And I think that like, dominoes kind of fall into place from there. But hopefully Zardes is fit enough to start this one.
Yeah, and then you got, I think Arruti was back in training before the game on the weekend, but
yeah,
so Wolff he's clear concussion protocol, but probably, and just my guess, we probably wouldn't see him until this weekend. I don't imagine he'll play during the midweek game, but I could be wrong.
I mean, even just to be available to go 15 or 20 would be useful, right? So maybe you do at least see him on the bench as an option, like in case of emergency, break glass.
Yeah, maybe so. So that leaves, let's see. Oh, I guess before we get off of it, because it continues to be cool to see how many people go up. Because like, just reading Twitter and the other social media accounts, like it seems like a pretty grumpy Austin FC fan base. But the fact that, I don't know, 400 or 500 people went up, the band went up, on the TV broadcast, like Austin FC fans are way louder than Dallas fans. You know, I've read a lot of stories about people who have friends in Dallas who are like converted Austin fans now because Austin FC fans brought into the game and they saw kind of the energy and excitement that Austin FC fans and La Murga bring to the performance. Like, again, like shout out in a difficult time in terms of how the results are going to Austin FC fans for always showing up.
Yeah. Social media has been a pretty poisonous place lately. And so I've been kind of avoiding those spots, but I know it's because you care a lot about this and the number of people who make that trip, which is, you think it seems like an easy trip, but once you realize like it's not in Dallas, it's like an hour past Dallas, and then you have to come back or find a place to stay. Like it's a big undertaking,
it's a commitment
to do that. Yeah. And so, I understand that people are grumpy because they care about this thing, and that like overall that is a good thing, even though it doesn't feel like it sometimes.
Yeah. So I think we touched on this. This leaves Austin 9th in the West. I've looked this up just before. There's only 5 points between 3rd and 10th. So the West continues to be every bit as tight as we thought before. It's like there's a chance that this is just the way things are going to go, and it will, Austin will need to play the same or marginally improve in order to make the playoffs. And so my question for you is like, what would you call a good season? Like if you think about everything that's happened, what place in the table, like what playoff performance would lead you to say like, oh yeah, this like Austin had a decent year given everything that has transpired?
I think like 7th, like not having to play in the play-in game would be like considered positive at this point. Getting into the play-in game, I think would be like minimum acceptable, I guess.
Yeah, and I think like if I'm, well, I hate that we agree because like I liked last week we argued a little bit, but that's exactly the same thought I had on it. But I mean, and I think like for people who want to opine upon what result will make Rodolfo Burrell like make a move or not in terms of the coaching during the offseason, like I don't see any difference between 8th, 9th, and 10th. Like, I don't think
Oh no, I don't.
if Austin makes a playoff game, makes the play-in game, and like loses it versus Austin finishing 10th, I think Rodolfo Borrell is going to do whatever he wants to do. And that may even be true if they finish all the way up to, even if they finish 7th. But I think, yeah, for this year, like avoiding the play-in game and like being like a real legitimate playoff team, I think would be a decent year given sort of all the things that have gone on around the club.
Yeah, and I 100% agree with that take about Burrell and Wolff. Like, you see on social media people saying like this manager is playing for their lives today. And it's like, really? Like, you're gonna base this decision on one game? And I know it's like bigger than that, but I agree. Like, if we finish 4th, I don't think that should change what Burrell's decision in the offseason should be. Like, if he doesn't think Wolff is the guy and like can bring in somebody better, like in the short to mid-term, make that decision. Like, that's fine with me. But I agree. Like, as far as the placement this season, the table, I think that matters a lot less with like a rebuild probably coming in the offseason. I think there's a lot more that should be factored into that decision than the results of a few games in the position in the table.
Yeah, especially given we talk about over and over again, like how the West is like competitive and people are dropping points left and right, and it's just it's like almost a crapshoot at this point. It's going to be whoever gets hot late, which is not a great way to evaluate whether somebody's the right choice for like your ongoing successful project or not. So I think people shouldn't read too much into exactly what Austin's last finishing position is, and more think about like what they would personally be happy with in the season. And like, playoff game would be good. Playoff game at Q2, which I guess we would get, right? Because the actual first round of the playoffs is best 2 out of 3.
Yeah, we would get at least one.
We would get at least one. So that would be nice.
Do you consider the play-in game a playoff game?
I do not consider the play-in game a playoff game. It's a reason why it's the play-in game. I believe this about because it's like I was saying, as a college basketball fan, this has always been the question about the NCAA tournament. They're like 4 playoff games, play-in games, and it's like, no, you don't make the field of 64 unless you're in the last 64. And I feel the same way about MLS.
For our second semantic discussion of the episode,
I know.
I agree with what you said, but also, like, your season's not over the last game of the season, and if you win, you get to keep playing. So doesn't that kind of sound like a playoff game?
Wow. Then you could say, yeah, but you could say like anybody that needs to win on the last day by that criteria is in the same place. Like, if they win, they keep playing. So
yeah, that's true.
But MLS playoffs are so weird anyhow, like, because the number of teams in it have changed every year. I don't know exactly how you characterize it, but for this year, I feel like you have to make the play-in game and win it in order to like count as a playoff team.
Okay, fair enough.
But I'm also not I'm sure the players probably have a different opinion, because I'm sure some of them have incentives for making the playoffs.
Oh yeah, I wonder how
they want to
works.
define it as broadly as possible, right? Yeah. Yeah. All right. Is there anything else we need to talk about for this match, or sort of what lies ahead before we go into the Marcelo Balboa interview? No,
I think we're good. Yeah, I'm very excited to get Marcelo on the show. I'm a fan of his as a U.S. national team fan, of course, but also his personality on TV. I really like it, both in English and Spanish. So it was a lot of fun to get to talk to him, and we preview the games this week, but also just get to chat with him a little bit, which was a lot of fun. He's a good dude, so hope you all enjoy it.
Moon Tower Soccer is brought to you by Covert Ford. The Coverts have been meeting the needs of local car buyers for 114 years because of their service, financial expertise, and support after the sale.
In addition to supporting car buyers, Covert's an important part of the soccer community and the official automotive partner of Austin FC.
This month, we're highlighting the 2023 Ford F-150 XL, stock number 2230658. This is available at 1.9% APR for 36 months and 90 days until your first payment with approved Ford credit. So go out and buy yourself a new truck for a good deal.
Have you ever had a truck, Jeremiah?
I drove a truck for 15 years. I drove a Ford F-150, but they were much smaller back then. I don't know if you noticed, but
they were small back in the day. Yeah.
Yeah. Trucks seem to be getting larger all the time. But yes, my grandfather gave me his Ford F-150, and it had one of those like sliding windows on the back.
Oh yeah.
So you could like put your beer in the back and then still like grab it from the from the cab, which seems very irresponsible in this day and age. Kids, don't do that at home.
Yeah, I've never had I'm like from a farm town, but I'm a town kid in a farm town. And so my first car was a 1992 Chevy Lumina,
Oh,
which
that's
was
a beautiful, beautiful vehicle.
my friend who was one of the biggest guys on our football team tried to get into it NASCAR style and broke the rearview mirror off.
Oh no.
All right. Well, if you're in the market for a new or used vehicle, be sure to check out covertford.com.
Moon Tower Soccer is also brought to you by Sage Wilson Realty. Thanks to Sage Wilson Realty, we'll be giving away 2 tickets to a match this week. So fill out the form in the show notes to enter for your chance to win.
Again, this is made possible by Sage Wilson Realty. So if you or someone you know are in need of Sage real estate advice in Austin, talk to our friends at Sage Wilson Realty. Be sure to check them out online at sagewilson.com. All right, we are thrilled to be joined by today's guest. He is a former professional soccer player, a U.S. national team star, and a facial hair legend. It's Marcelo Balboa. Marcelo, thanks for joining us, man.
I don't think I've ever been called a facial hair legend. That's impressive.
I
was trying to keep up with Lexi when I played. That's all.
Your beard's a little trimmer, but whenever you have it full, I'm a big fan.
I got in trouble, man. I got in trouble. My mom wasn't a big fan of the big beard. I usually grow it and let it grow as big as I can for the winter time because it's really cold in Colorado and I do a lot of hiking in the mountains. It keeps my face a little warmer. And I just started to grow back and I went home because I had a game in LA and mom was already starting to pull on it. If I can pull on it, it's time to trim it again. I'm like, oh, so yeah, Argentinian boy, Latin boy, mama still rules the world. So
she didn't like the beard, but what does she think about your World Cup look with the mustache, the mullet, and one earring?
And I'm going to be honest, no one liked the porn star look, bro. I got asked if I played hockey back in 90s because I had the haircut, and the shave close on the side, long in the back. We'll just go with mom's okay with the long hair because grandpa, before he passed away, said, he goes, when you can grow it because eventually it stops growing and then you'll have to cut it. So I'm like, rock on, grandpa. I love it. And and how is mom going to go against grandpa? Can't do that. But she can talk about the facial hair. She's not a big fan of that. So
Jeremiah was having some audio issues. So you and I got a chance to chat here for a second. We were talking about Argentina. I got the chance just after college to spend some time in Argentina for a few months and really loved it. I don't know this about you. Are you like a dual national team fan? Do you consider yourself like a US fan and an Argentina fan?
I am 100% a U.S. fan, and Argentina fan. My mom and dad are the same way. When I played for the U.S., it was the U.S. played against Argentina. They would cheer for the U.S. because of their son. But I learned a long time ago that, as a kid, you're a little embarrassed. When I grew up, Spanish wasn't a big thing.
Yeah.
And people made fun of me and teased me about being Hispanic, speaking Spanish. So I lost a lot of my Spanish, and you can tell I don't have much of an accent. So I worked really hard on that because it was, as a kid, I got bullied. I'll just leave it at that. Pretty good about being Hispanic. So, but I've learned throughout after high school that you have to embrace your culture. And I am Argentinian. I am part Argentinian. I'm American. And I've embraced it. And dad told me a long time ago, he goes, don't be a fool. He goes, if you're going to play soccer and you're going to be something in this world, you got to be able to speak both languages. Both languages are going to come huge if you play sports or if you do business or in the real world. Being able to speak both languages is going to be beneficial. So I started working on it. And I am very proud to say that I'm American Argentine.
Not just with your playing, but now with your post-playing career, he's definitely right, no?
I enjoy doing English. I'm not going to lie. But I tell you what, I think it was after one of the World Cup games or something like that I did with ESPN. And I got a few death emails, death threats. I've been told, whoa, I lost my camera there. Can you hear me? There we go.
You're good. Yep.
I've been told that because I didn't play in England or in Europe that I didn't know soccer, that I'm not an analyst. You have no clue what soccer is about. So I've been ripped pretty good with the English fans for some reason, because I didn't play in Europe, I don't know soccer. I'm sitting there going, okay, I've played in 3 World Cups. I played in Greece. I played in Mexico. I'm sitting there going, I think I understand soccer decently to explain in Spanish and English. And now that's my dog. Hey, buddy. And so, the Spanish came along, and it took me a little while, and I'm still working on it. I don't get to speak Spanish every day, but I work hard on it. I do a lot of watching. I do a lot of reading, trying to read it. And I do the best that I can with what God gave me.
I think you do a great job. I will often, for national team games, we'll listen to we'll watch the Spanish language broadcast, and I always enjoy you on there for your takes and for your opinions. But also, I think maybe because it wasn't like your first language, I understand you really well too. So.
It's okay, man. I speak Spanglish sometimes. So I'm on air and I'm sitting there sometimes I have to think about it, and I'm trying to translate a word in my head really quick, and I'm like, screw it. I'm just going with the Spanglish word, and people understand it. And it is what it is. You know what I mean? Sometimes certain words just don't come out for me.
Yeah.
And like I said, it is what it is. I get abused a lot. When the U.S. plays Mexico. Why do we have a gringo on our Mexican station? And I'm sitting there going, well, because my job's to defend the U.S. That's all, So I have a good time. I love what I do. I wouldn't want to do anything else. And but I love broadcasting. I love the people I work with. The fans are freaking fantastic. And either they love you, they don't. You know what I've realized too is I get beat up on Twitter, and all of a sudden I write back to the guy. The guy really just ripped me anyway. And I'm like, you know what? I appreciate you at least watching and give me some critique. And next thing you know, I get a text back or a DM back. Oh, I didn't mean it. Thank you so much for replying. I just wanted to see if you reply. And I'm like, dude, just be nice to me. I'll reply. But he had to insult me first in order for me to reply. I'm like, all right, I get it. It's all good.
Hey, Marcelo, I'm big into sneaker fashion, so I appreciate that you tweet your shoes a lot. So thank you for that. I'll give you some positive reinforcement on your Twitter account.
I appreciate that. That is all in the doing of my girlfriend and my boy. My boy, if we walk downstairs right now, he's got a row of about 40 shoes. And he's like, Dad, you got to pick up the game. So he ended up getting me a pair of sneakers, and little by little, I've become a junkie now. I've got probably more pairs than I should. But I appreciate the compliment, and it's not anywhere near Greg Berhalter's shoe game. But I don't have certain. I'm getting Adidas behind me. Adidas is helping out, so we're getting there. And a Diodora.
Nice. All right. Well, we couldn't pass up the opportunity to have a chat with you, but you're here for a reason. Yes. You are going to be on the Spanish language broadcast for Austin's game midweek against the Seattle Sounders. Yes. So let's jump into that one. We'll also coerce you into talking a little bit about the Revolution, even though I've only called them once this year and aren't on that broadcast, but we'll get to that one in a second.
I've watched enough. We're good.
Okay, cool.
All right, Jeremiah, you want to run us through our Seattle notes here?
Yeah, let's just set it up really quickly. So Seattle now sits third in the West after their performance against Minnesota on Sunday. They are playing both on shorter rest in Austin, having played on Sunday, and they're also traveling on the road on Wednesday. Coming up, they play Portland on the weekend. So in Austin fans' minds, hopefully it might be good that there might be some chance of rotation. I think for all the Austin fans that have had a little bit of a downtime in the last few weeks, this May 17th 2-1 victory in Seattle, where nobody thought Austin was going to win, gives fans hope for results. And I think other than that, Seattle's generally pretty known. Jordan Morris, 9 goals. Yeah. You get what you expect out of him. You kind of know the system. They've been what they've been for a long time. So I guess what should people expect in this matchup out of especially out of Seattle, and then we can get into your observation on a national perspective about what's going on in Austin.
I think Seattle finally had a positive result on the road against Minnesota, 1-1. That's a good result for them. The fact that they play Sunday, went home Monday, I don't know if they went straight to Austin or not. But they'll be fatigued from what I saw the other day. It's 105 throughout the day. So it'll be hot. Game time, it'll be 90-something they were talking about, correct?
Yeah.
That's
somewhere,
at least
somewhere in there.
90 something, Marcelo.
I'm trying to be nice so I can convince myself that it's not going to be that bad. But I think that all drops in the favor of Austin. Now Austin's given up 7 goals in 2 games. They've lost the last 2. Can't seem to find. A lot of teams are struggling right now finding that stride again right after Leagues Cup. So you've seen a few teams. Colorado went to LFC. They got beat pretty good. You saw Chicago this weekend, got a guy thrown out, frustration. All of a sudden, they end up losing 3-0. So I would hope that Austin playing at home would be the team that's going to be more aggressive. It's going to be a little bit more proactive. I think Seattle will do what they've done for a while. They've kind of sat back. And I don't think you can high press in this kind of heat for 90 minutes. So I don't see that. But listen, I think Seattle has quality players. Seattle is coming out of a slump, we'll say, that they've been struggling. They're getting bodies healthy. So I would look for an interesting game. I would look for one mistake, one error that may be able to cost you, for both teams, could cost you the game.
With Seattle coming off of short rest and then having Portland on the weekend, could you see them coming in and rotating the squad against Austin this Wednesday?
I would think so. I have the Cascadia Cup game between Portland and Seattle this weekend. So I don't think you can go into a Sunday, Wednesday, Saturday with the same team. So I would definitely expect some rotation, some guys getting a little bit of rest for the home game on Saturday.
Are there any obvious targets for that, like as far as certain positions or players that you would expect to be rotated, or do you think it's all kind of dependent?
I think it all depends on how they came out and how their workload was after Sunday's game. So I think you'll just have to wait and see. This league is very now knowledgeable with all of the pods they put and the workload and that statistical side of things, the analytical side. So I think they'll look at that and they'll see the workload, and then I think you'll see. I don't think tons, but I think you could probably see 3 to 4 changes in order to give guys a rest.
Yeah, on the Austin side, Danny Pereira gets a red card against Dallas the other day, so they'll be missing him. So it'll be interesting for Austin to see what does the midfield look like. You've got both Alex Ring and Emiliano Rigoni kind of working back from injuries over the break, and so may still be on restrictions. So we'll see if those guys get rotated out, or if like who plays at the 6 without Pereira, because Pereira's pretty much the guy, and then you see Johan Valencia come in sometimes. But so that'll be interesting to watch for Austin. And then is there any other things we should be talking about for Austin, Jeremiah?
Well, actually, I was going to go back to the point you had before, Marcelo, sort of with the rotation and the training staff and the coaches. Like, as an ex-player, like how much do you think that like the coaches listen to the training staff, and how much they just kind of go with, how much they rely on the data and how much they just go with kind of the vibes in the moment?
They rely on the data a lot because it tells a lot. The GPS of the workload, the sprints, the duration of the sprint. So you've got to watch, and I think that's why you see a lot of players a little older, we'll say, can't do that. We didn't have pods when we played. So if we played Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday, I played all 3 games. Most guys played all 3 games because that was just our job. You know what I mean? But then that's where the hamstrings come in, or a calf, groin. So the analytical side of the soccer is important. The data that they're going to bring in, the data they're going to look at. The one guy could be up high in one area, and on the other one, he could be in danger of maybe pulling a hamstring. So I think they've got to be very careful, and especially the older you get, the older players aren't at a point where you can force them and play them 3 games in a row, start them and let them be effective.
Yeah, that's very interesting to hear. Like, we know that data exists and that they factor it in, but to hear a bit more practical application of it, because I think a lot of fans do think like this game matters, so this guy should play, and it's not always that simple. Like, you have to be careful.
Well, listen, you tell a player, and you ask any player, can you play today? Of course he's going to say yes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you can take that little bit of BS away from a player by showing him his data and be like, listen, you're here, you're there, you can see it visually. And as a player, you're like, okay, I get it, but I still want to play. You know what I mean? So it's an important part of trying to manage, especially nowadays with so many games. Listen, on Apple, just think of just on Apple TV, how many games there are between regular season, between Leagues Cup, between the playoffs. I mean, Apple has a lot of games. And those players, most of them are playing 90% of the games. So you need to make sure that your players are peaking right about that 8 games ago, 7 games ago, right in there. They start peaking, they get a run. Next thing you know, you're in the MLS Cup. And we've seen this, for example, in Colorado, 97, we were the last place team. We went on a run at the end of the year, the last 3 games. Next thing you know, we're in the MLS Cup losing to DC United. But who would have thought we were going to get there? Portland a few years ago squeaked into the playoffs. Next thing you know, they're in the finals. So it's very important for the coaches and the training staff to keep an eye and to make sure their 8-cylinder is lubed and ready to go at the end of the year.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on to the Revolution game. So Austin will go away to New England. New England is currently 3rd in the East. Yep. They've been really good at home, which is not great for Austin. They, as good as they've been, they're in kind of a weird spot in the year. So they just sold Georgi Petrovic to Chelsea for close to $20 million.
Yeah.
They've brought in their replacement, a high level replacement, Czech veteran player. So he, quality wise, he's fine, but probably not 100% bedded into the team quite yet. They're missing Brandon Bai with a long-term injury. Henry Kessler's been out. Gustavo Bo's been out. They've been having to play Matt Polster, who's kind of like their anchor in central midfield, having to play him at right back. And so that all has kind of been, they're in a weird moment. That being said, looking at most recent results, they're still not giving up that many goals. They've still been able to score when they needed to. Yeah. And Carlos Heel is still Carlos Heel. So I don't know, what are your thoughts on this New England team?
I think they've done well. And with all the situation, we'll just say that's going on in New England, they've stayed focused. They had a nice run in Leagues Cup, and it's a dangerous team. Yes, you downgraded a little bit in your goalkeeper, but defensively they're pretty good. Midfield's pretty good when they're healthy. I think when you look at Carlos Gil, you're looking at one of the best players in Major League Soccer still. So he can turn a game for you. He can twist a game for you. So especially playing at home on the turf, they're very difficult to beat at their home.
I kind of forgot that Mark Anthony Kaye plays for them now.
Who?
Yeah, I think he played for a few teams in the Western Conference. I can't remember who all it was.
LAFC, Colorado, then Toronto, now New England. I got you.
I don't want to put you on the spot here. Have you gotten a chance to watch? I haven't seen them while he's been in the team, but it looks like with Polster out wide, he's been kind of holding down the 6th spot for them.
He's always played as a 6. If you go back to LAFC, they played the double pivot, the double 6, and he played in that role. He came to Colorado, and the same thing, him and Kela Costa, that played similar, both in the midfield, kind of give and go. He's a 6 at one point. He's an 8 at another point. He gets into the attack. So Toronto, I didn't see much, but if I remember correctly, he was in that same midfield 6-8. So, listen, he's a quality player. He's a good quality player. The problem is I'm not sure if he's a better 6 or if he's a better 8. That's the question I think that most teams are trying to figure out. And he may be trying to do the same thing because the kid, when he goes forward, has got a smooth looking stride. He hits a nice ball. He's got good vision. So, but most teams want that 6 just to be ahead of the 8 to be just ahead of the 6. And Mark Anthony Kaye, when you watch him play, has a tendency to go a little further and leave that 6 exposed. So I think that's where maybe if he plays in the midfield, that's where maybe Austin has a little bit of an advantage.
All right, Jeremiah, any other thoughts or questions for Marcelo?
No, no notes on this one. I want to ask Marcelo about his El Paso Locomotive shirt and how he, for those of you that happen to be listening just to the audio of it, like, where did you get that from? And is there a story behind it?
There is the play-by-play guy who does the Apple TV with me and Jorge Perez Navarro. Been working together for years and years and years, and he lives in El Paso. So he's like, "What size shirt do you wear?" And I'm like, large. He's like, "Whatever." I said, "Okay." So I didn't even think twice about it. And I guess I went to a Locomotive game, and he bought me a T-shirt, gave it to me on the next trip. And I like my Locomotive shirt. So I haven't seen them play. I would love to go see a game. I may go visit Jorge and go see them play. But it's a cool shirt. I like it.
Yeah, I'm gonna be there in El Paso in a few weeks. I don't know if they play, but like it's a cool city too. Like it's got its own unique culture and food, and like it's kind of a mountain city. It's like it's an underrated gem, I think.
It's got its own vibe too. We went down there and played, and I'll say it. I went and played in a golf tournament. I drove with a buddy of mine from Colorado to El Paso to play in a golf tournament. Stayed the night and drove back the next day. That's how much we love golf.
Jeez.
So, but it's a nice place. We enjoyed it.
All right. Well, Marcelo, thanks so much for joining us. Listeners, as we mentioned before, Marcelo will be on the Spanish language broadcast for Austin's game against Seattle on Wednesday. Marcelo, best of luck with the rest of the season and all of your traveling. And thanks so much for joining us.
Anytime, my friend. We will see you guys Tuesday.
All right.
We get there Tuesday, but we'll see you Wednesday at the game.
We'll see you Wednesday at the game. All right, man. Thanks.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. We want to thank Marcelo Balboa one more time. Before we wrap up, we'd like to remind you to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And then come find us on Twitter at LVHero87 and JBentley_ATX, and then at Moon Tower Soccer on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And then check out the Patreon if you're interested in supporting us in that way. And then also sign up for Phil West's Substack, where he is continuing his Austin FC coverage, and you can get a 20% discount there with philwest.substack.com/moontower. Thanks so much for listening. We'll be back next week to cover the Seattle and New England matches. And then no preview since Austin is off that week, but hopefully we'll have some other news and maybe an interview to do. Until then, I'm Landon Cottom.
I'm Jeremiah Bentley.
We'll catch you next time.
When no one is around.
Thank for nothing, see you never.
La gente
Oh my God.